Hello and welcome back to Something Rotten, our Ninja Theory season. To be honest, in the beginning of this, I was saying like season 4, season 5, and I'm gonna lose it. So we're just gonna say Ninja Theory season. That's what we're doing. We're doing away with numbers.
I have a ninja theory for you.
Yeah?
Ninjas are stronger than samurais. That's just a theory. A ninja theory.
That's just a ninja theory.
You couldn't see it, but I dramatically backed away from my camera. Real cool, listeners. It was great.
He really did. He made it convincing. I believed you for a second. Although I've always considered myself more of a samurai fan. I think just because... Here's the thing. I think like overt sword fighting is more exciting to me than like being sneaky and using gadgets. You know, and I think of ninjas as essentially like the Inspector Gadgets of ye old.
Bro.
You know,
Bro.
It's like they got a bunch of tech, and samurai's just gonna walk in there with a sword and kill or get killed.
No. Don't lie to me. Don't lie to the listeners. The only reason you like samurai so much is because you're such a freak for that little man, Tom Cruise. You saw The Last Samurai, and you're like, that's it.
Blake, I actually have not seen that movie. One of the few Tom Cruises that I haven't seen.
That's a good movie. I don't know if it's a good movie. I saw it literally 20 years ago. My uncle took me to the theater to see The Last Samurai as like a 9-year-old. So I don't know if
I'm sure if I saw it when I was 9, I would have been like, this is the best piece of entertainment I've ever seen.
Hold on. When did that movie come out? Can we let's allocate 1 minute to me looking this up just to know. Because I was like, 2003. Yeah, I guess I would have been 9.
Yeah, 20 years exactly.
Yeah. Ken Watanabe's in that. So there you go. Hiroyuki Sanada is in it, who people know.
Oh, yeah. Hiroyuki, my fave.
People know from John Wick 4 or Ring, crucially.
Or Sunshine, everyone. My new favorite sci-fi movie.
Oh, I've never seen Sunshine. Shun Sugata is in it, who's in basically every Yakuza movie ever made, and this one samurai film. Good cast.
I feel like the thing that people talk about that movie is kind of like, really? It's Tom Cruise? You know, it's like, it's a white guy. But, like, the rest of the cast is so fucking stacked that, like, you know, I'm sure I would still enjoy it, even while being like, maybe Tom Cruise shouldn't be the last samurai.
Raise your pledge on Nebula. That's not how Nebula works. And we'll watch The Last Samurai. Probably not a rotten movie.
Such a dumb Nebula bonus thing for this season, which is dealing with Devil May Cry and mental illness or whatever. Anyway... We've beat Devil May Cry. We saw Virgil snipe an unborn child.
I got thoughts on that shit.
We fought that unborn child.
Hold on. Was it born then unborn?
I think it was just kind of like a manifestation of like an evil fetus.
That's fair.
You know, that common thing that we all know.
Yeah.
We played the first half last week. I was like, banger. Played the second half this week. Still banger. Still fun to play.
Here's the thing you gotta understand about this game's ramp up in quality is you unlock these 2 little frisbees with knives on the end of them, and it makes the game fucking incredible. It's so good.
I think those frisbees might be so good that they break the game, and I'm interested to like talk about it. We'll go more into the combat this week than we did last week, I think.
I think that's an interesting thought because it does have, you know, the throwing move, which basically lodges in enemies and kind of freezes them for a bit of time, allowing you to either focus on a different enemy or just double combo one enemy. But so that's a bit OP, but I feel like overall their damage output is not that high.
No, you're missing the most important move, which is the one where you suck all the enemies towards you. That's the one. That's where
okay.
It's like it's like you do that and then you take out your axe or your big fists and it's just like everything goes down real quick.
Sure. Okay. Now I think the weapon that might break the game, at least in the boss fights, is the axe. The damage it does on bosses is... it's actually, I don't think that useful on normal enemies because it's so slow and they're so fast that's like I used the like gauntlets more often for the like the demon weapons. But in boss fights, especially when they're staggered, pulling out that axe can like drastically diminish how much time you have to spend on a boss fight.
No, the like the Y pause Y where you do, I think it's called Trinity Smash, is like one of the it's the thing in this game that really speaks to like this is not kind of a mainline Devil May Cry, because like there would never be a move that good and easy to pull off that also gives you like triple S immediately in Devil May Cry 3 or 4. You know, it's like that it is so fun to knock off like 40% of a boss's health bar with one hit with that, but it's like they would never make it that accessible.
So I play a lot of stylish action games, as you and maybe listeners know, without particularly being very good at them at all. Like, I willfully do not really engage much with the combos. Like, I get good enough that I am competent at them, you know what I'm saying? But, like, I don't go very deep. Like, Bayonetta 1, sometimes dick-kickingly hard game. I'm getting stone rankings across the board, and I'm just happy to be there. Now, that said, Bayonetta 3... I got fucking good at, except for those goddamn Viola levels. Anyway, all this. Did you know they recently patched it to make her parry window more?
Did they really?
Like, I think I say this. I think it was back in January. I want to go back to it and play it.
Huh? Yeah, that's a real. I mean, I hope that Switch emulators come out one day, because like playing that game not on the Switch, I feel like is going to be my real moment for it, where it's just like it's running at fucking 480p or whatever.
Dude, the amount of times I want to replay that game and then I'm like, I would rather eat glass than play as Viola ever again.
That's right.
Is a bummer. But they have apparently patched her quite a bit, so I'm curious to go back. Anyway, all this is to say, I was putting up some goddamn S ranks. Not in the chapter totals. In individual combat encounters, I was getting the S's, the double S's, and the triple S's across the board on this game.
Yeah, I mean, I was getting... I mean, I've previously stated I played this game way too much, and I still have kind of that muscle memory. But, like, the only thing that was preventing me from getting, like, double S chapter rankings was I was not finding any of the collectibles, because the collectibles in this game are stupid. And it's like, oh, you didn't find 4 keys. And I was like... yeah, I'm not going to stop an incredibly fun combat system to go look for keys, which is a problem that all of the Devil May Cries and Bayonetta have, is this like, hey, do you want to stop doing the most fun thing you've ever done in a video game to like turn the camera in a weird position and try to find this little corner that we hid? You know what our sponsor, Henson Razors, is really good for?
Yeah, making you have less hair on your body, doofus.
Okay, but also gifts. Father's Day just passed, but this is a super classy and kind of cool thing to give for a birthday or something. My friend's son recently graduated high school, and this is a true story. He got him a Henson razor as like a "you're a man now" present. Son, here's your razor.
Jacob, you're like 26. How do you have a friend that just got a son that graduated high school?
Because I have mature friends, Blake.
Well, regardless, I hope your friend remembered to go to hensonshaving.com, use the promo code ROTTEN, so he could also give his son a free box of blades.
Happy graduation, son. Here's 100 razor blades. Hey, Blake, you know our podcast is better on Nebula, right?
Oh, for sure. Everyone knows that. Early episodes every week, bonus episode for every miniseries, all the good stuff.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that you knew.
Yeah, I mean, I edit the show, and I have a Google Calendar. Like, I got it under control. I will say, this game commits a sin that a lot of stylish action games do, that some have fixed in recent years. Nier Automata was really good about this. Metal Gear Rising is good about this. And Bayonetta 3 also good about this. Dante's run speed is so slow. It drives me nuts. Like finishing an encounter, and then he literally, like, if you look at the animation, it looks like it's in slow motion compared to the rest of the world. It's mind-numbing.
It's weird, and I almost wonder if it is related to like level loading speed.
Sure,
because like in DMC 3 and 4 and 5, there's a skill where it's like after you've been running for a little while, you really start sprinting and you go super fast. And in this game, like literally if you watch me play, I am just jumping and boosting forward, like the angel boost, all of the time. I never run because it's just so slow, and then you can zoom forward. And a kind of funny thing is when you play the game on New Game Plus and you have the angel boost from the beginning, you can like break the scripting of the first platforming section where it's all falling apart, because you can get to a place before you're supposed to, and then the ground just collapses under you. And I'm like, that's bullshit. And then I realized, I'm not supposed to have the ability that I use to like get here so fast.
Yeah. Walk us through the story a bit, because if I'm being honest, I kind of forgot a lot of the story because
it's so memorable, Blake.
I'm not saying actually the last cutscene I was like, all right, I'm kind of over this, but I tried to pay attention to the story and it just gives me nothing to latch onto.
Yeah. So in the previous episode, the last thing we did was killed not Rush Limbaugh. We killed Bob Barbas. But then you go back to your little terrorist home base to find that it is being raided by SWAT teams in the real world, and Dante is kind of stuck in limbo, and so you're kind of helpless and you're watching all this stuff happen. And there are like several levels that are basically this raid, one in which you're just kind of trying to get through, one in which you're interacting with Kat in the real world, and she like sprays spray paint on a wall, and then you like pull it down from limbo, which is kind of interesting, I guess.
I think this is the worst level in the game, by far.
Yeah.
Like, there's just not enough combat. There's too much time that is just running from A to B to do a one-button prompt to run to C. And it's just like, this is a real bummer. Though the fight at the very end of the level is pretty cool, if a little janky. There's a big fight where it's like wave-based.
It's just in that ring, yeah.
Yeah, it's wave-based, and at least on the PS4 version I'm playing on PS5, like it seemed like the game would stutter between the waves, and I'd have to wait like a solid minute for them to load, and it is what it is.
I have a question for you, which is, are you playing the definitive edition?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, because they never released that on PC. So I'm just playing the original, and there are actually a number of like substantive game changes, nothing crazy, but like, I mean, they added a lock on, like there's not a lock on in the original, which I often really wish I had, and they did like adjust weapon damage levels in different places.
I actually didn't really use the lock on because you have to hold the lock on button to keep it engaged, which I thought felt kind of bad. I just wanted to press it,
weird.
And it, I mean, unless I did it wrong, like listeners will let me know if I did it wrong, but like the way I was pressing R1, and then when I let go of it, it would disappear, and it's like, what's the fucking point of this then? It's not locked, if you ask me.
They published, I think is kind of interesting, like this huge PDF of like all of the things that were changed, which I feel like a lot of times they don't, like, developers don't do the whole change log. But in this they did, even though it's kind of, I think it's not hosted anymore. It's like on Capcom's website, but you can find backups of it. And it's like, yeah, they changed things. It's obviously it runs at a higher resolution, at a better frame rate and whatever. But I just thought it was interesting that it's like, that is not on Steam. Like it's only for PS4 and Xbox or whatever.
I wonder why. Yeah. I mean, I guess if I got a PS3, maybe I could play the original version, but I don't think there's any way on PS4 or PS5 to play anything but Definitive Edition.
Also, like, why would you? It does seem like a Definitive Edition in that, like, I don't think there's anything to be gained by going backwards.
Well, I think it's the only way on console to play it at 60. So, like,
yeah,
it feels at this point like I'm not a big frame rate guy, but playing a game like this, I don't want to play it at 30. It would feel bad.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think on PC, it's probably running at like 120 frames per second, which feels amazing.
Yeah, I regret not playing it on PC. I should have, but it is what it is.
What can you do? So, yeah, you have this whole thing, and I guess the story importance of this, other than there's these weird things where you're running through the halls and you see the SWAT teams shooting, like, random dudes.
Yeah.
And I was like, are those other people in our terrorist organization? Because I've literally only ever seen Virgil and Kat. Like, I thought it was like a 3-person job, and then it's like, there are random guys in trench coats, and Kat's like, oh no. It's like, who's that guy?
Yeah, believe it or not, the game is not willing to engage with whoever these people are that might or might not be crucial to the lore of the game.
Not at all. But there is this this kind of like the first real conflict between Dante and Virgil, because Virgil is downloading some shit from hard drives. Who cares?
Porn.
He's downloading the vast compendiums of porn that they've got. But he's like, Dante, hold off the monsters. And Dante's like, I can hold off the monsters, but the SWAT team's going to bust in and kill Kat. And Virgil's kind of like, I don't care. And then at the end of it, they're like, you know what? Kat has no way out of here anyway. And so she gets kidnapped. And Dante is mad because Virgil is treating Kat's life as just kind of, disposable.
Yeah. Can I bring something up about Virgil? Of course I can. This is my podcast as much as it's your podcast.
That's right.
Bring up whatever I want. In the other DMC games, like Virgil and Dante don't necessarily look exactly alike, but there's a point in this game when you first meet Virgil. Didn't talk about this on episode 1. I forgot to. Where Dante's like, "Who the fuck are you?" And Virgil's like, "Believe it or not, bro, I'm your brother." And Dante's like, "What?" They're identical twins. Dante's looking into a mirror of himself.
Are they really?
I mean, like, more or less, yeah. I think Virgil's got a bit of a fatter nose, but, like, they are literally identical to each other.
Well, that's kind of fun.
I think they're basically the same character model with some minor changes.
That's very funny. I'm like mildly face blind, and so I was just like, oh, okay, there he is.
I just think it's like, if I was Dante and I may not be like, that's my brother immediately, but I'd be like, damn, we kind of look alike. That's weird.
Yeah, and it is, I guess that is like good that they look similar in terms of just establishing that they're brothers or whatever.
Yeah.
So then there is this whole, I guess, what order do the levels happen? So Kat gets kidnapped, and then you basically go right to the nightclub.
The idea Dante and Virgil have is like, Kat's kidnapped, so let's take Mundus's mistress. They keep calling her mistress, or his mistress, which implies he has like a wife or a primary significant other, but I
think you could probably call the treatment of whatever her name is in this game like pretty misogynist, that it's like, what's her job? She's like the whore, and it's just like, we know that she's evil and she dresses kind of slutty, and so it's like, oh, you know what her demon thing is? Sexuality, everyone, watch out.
I mean, I would say you could also call a lot of Kat's role in this game also fairly misogynistic, but in the back half of this game, she exists to be abused, and that's about it.
God, I like the things that happen or don't happen with Kat are so strange in this sequence of levels. That being said, almost any nightclub level is good, and this is a good nightclub level. Like, sure. I just think, You wrote to me last night, we can talk about this now, you were like, just so I don't forget this game is the worst fucking music I've ever heard.
It's literally unlistenable. Like, I guess it's the band like Combi Christ or whatever. There's a few like actual bands.
I was wondering if you knew that band just because you know more bands than me.
By name, the only interaction I've had with any of these bands would be this. And you know what? It does this thing that like, there's like a certain sect of like, and I'm not super versed in this, so like, not an expert here, but there's like a certain category of like electronic music, which is like almost like the Venn diagram of metal and electronic music comes together. Mm-hmm. And yet certain types of screaming only work with like real instrumentation, because like drums and guitar and like especially a heavy low end from the bass can really drive the intensity needed with like raw screaming vocals that certain types of electronic music can't. And my ears cannot accept the kind of weak instrumentation of these electronic songs with like really aggressive vocals. It sounds like vocals taken from a different song put over a song they weren't recorded for. It sounds, and that's not even to touch the fact that the songs are bad, the lyrics are garbage,
Yeah.
And overall, this is bad music. Like that, just like sonically, it doesn't make sense to my ears either.
That's a great. I mean, as someone who's never been anywhere near this genre, I kind of don't have much to say other than like, I don't like it that much.
Yeah.
But you are like very experienced in this, and so I appreciate your more kind of like. Here's why musically this is unlistenable.
Yeah, and a lot of bands have done it. I mean, I remember definitely in the more MySpace era, like as Screamo or just like bands, as screaming was kind of having this new wave, you would get these bands that would be like, we're an electronica band with a screamer. And it's like, you are making the worst music known to man. Bands like Broken Side was a really infamous one back in the day. But I'll tell you what, as far as levels go, there's a killer 7 minutes in this level.
And what I was going to say is like, hey, they're just playing like club EDM, and that's fine with me. You know, it's like, it's kind of not, it's not like the rest of the soundtrack. Combat Christ, by the way, the main guy from it did the whole Hellblade soundtrack. So, what I mean, I do not think it's in the style of Combat Christ largely, but it'll be interesting, like thinking about it being the same musician from both.
I don't want to imply they're bad musicians. I think this is just bad music.
I mean, look, like Devil May Cry music, sorry everyone, like has sucked. You know, it's like there's some good ones in DMC 5. We like Devil Trigger. We like the Virgil song.
Trigger's a bad song.
I think it's fine. The combat song in DMC 3 is like one of the worst songs that I have ever heard in a game, and it does the same thing that it does here, where it's like it starts at the beginning in every combat encounter, even when they're like 30 seconds long. So I've heard the first 30 seconds of that DMC 3 song 1 million times.
Also, I guess the genre is aggro tech, industrial metal, which those are good descriptors. No, there's one good Devil May Cry song.
Yeah.
The one I recorded for this podcast.
Do you know, this was like a question on MinMax a while ago, but the number of listens that the Virgil song has from DMC5 on YouTube is, just throw out a guess. How many?
40 million.
89 million.
What's that song called?
It's called Bury the Light. Virgil's battle theme from Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition. It's like, that is so many times how many copies that game sold, let alone the DLC that Virgil was in.
Okay, so I just looked it up. On Spotify, it has 67,831,304 listens.
Jesus Christ.
And I'm looking at the DMC5 soundtracks on Spotify, and a few have cracked the single-digit millions, and a lot of them are in the hundreds of thousands. Like, it's a huge jump. Wow.
It's nuts.
I couldn't even tell you that song. I'm going to have to listen to it after this because I don't remember it all.
The top comment here is 100% motivation, 100% badass, 100% Virgil, 0% child support. So, there you go. Anyway, that's just a little note on the thing. Anyway, nightclub level. It's great. I love how Limbo works in the nightclub, because it's just like the dance floor keeps kind of fucking with you, where it like sinks down, and there are these big walls, and the walls are kind of doing pulsing, you know, like they've got like the equalizers on them that are going up and down. It looks really cool. Again, I
really like the like graphic design that's constantly popping up, like, you know, does Dante have talent, or round 1, round 2, round 3, like it's really cool.
yeah, it's like I think the devil has talent. Or something.
Something like that.
And again, just thinking about, I know this is true of all video games, but like thinking about that Psych Odyssey thing, and like how much they were struggling to do kind of specific special effects, and thinking about like how many effects are just in this level. You know, like there is just so much going on in any of these, and you're like running across light bridges, and you're doing this whole thing. Like, it's just a really striking level. This is maybe another Something Rotten thing of just like how many games have we played that have nightclub levels.
Oh yeah, Max Payne 3.
Because Max Payne definitely does. Kane and Lynch 1 does. I don't think Kane and Lynch 2 does.
Right.
The Darkness does not.
I don't think Manhunt did. No, Manhunt did. Manhunt did. You go in that sex club.
Or Manhunt 2, right?
Right. Manhunt 2. So yeah, a lot of them. Darkness, not that I remember, though. You go in that fancy
No.
restaurant, which is like a nightclub for fancy people.
And you go in a brothel, which is like a hell nightclub.
Speaking of hell nightclub, let's talk about the mistress more. Let's not let this one go. She is heinous. Like, they did her so dirty. Like, everything about her is hateful. Not in, like, her character, like, in the studio's treatment of her.
Yeah.
It's just despicable.
I think from an art design perspective, I was thinking it is really impressive how they communicated the idea that she's like skin stretched across something that did not normally have skin. Like, it looks like the thing where, like, in The Simpsons, where Homer gathers all of his fat and, like, safety pins it behind his body. It's like, that's what her head looks like.
I don't want to act like there aren't major issues with the phenomenon and industry of plastic surgery. Like, there are obviously huge issues there with, like, body representation or beauty standards, just even ethical dilemmas behind, blah, 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 blah. I also think there's this misogynistic tendency or, like, thought that a lot of men have that, like, women who get plastic surgery are whorish.
Oh, for sure.
Like, slutty or just old women who, like, it's worth ridiculing old women who want to feel better about themselves. And this character,
that's really the thing. Yeah.
It's like, you know what my opinion doesn't matter on old women who want to feel pretty. Like, it doesn't matter what I think about that at all. And this game seems to think a lot of things about it. And my note to Ninja Theory is your opinion actually doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah, it's like her biggest sin as a character, as told by the game, is like being old and trying to be hot. Because it's like they make it really clear with like the amount of like wrinkles and stuff they put on her. It's like, this isn't a character that you're excited seeing her like sexy, get up. It's like you're supposed to think it's gross. And it's just like, the kind of demonification of sexuality is one thing, but also the game's perspective being like, and what's worse, like, she's wrinkly. It's pretty gross. That being said, there is also grossness that I appreciate, which is the boss fight here.
Yes, video games are such a dumb thing because it's like, how many games have we talked about on this show specifically where we bring up like some of the most misogynistic, gross shit imaginable that we are like, we abhor this. This is bad. You did a bad job. Now, on the other hand, you did a fun thing with it, though.
Yeah, it's like The Darkness 2 is essentially that in microcosm.
That is just video games as an industry at this point.
Yeah. Though I think that the boss fight itself here is not. Maybe this is an insane thing to say. I don't think the boss fight is like problematic. I think actually it's like fine. So anyway, what happens here? Some of the most effective body horror here is like she's pregnant with Mundus's like demon child, and you can see her belly like moving, which just as like a thing for me is always like a major like, oh god, like the scene in Prometheus where she has like the alien baby or whatever. It is uniquely horrifying. But no other medium has been as bold as Devil May Cry in that in her boss fight, the baby comes out, is an enormous monster, and then she is attached to the baby's belly button by an umbilical cord that is the width and attached to her head. And then she says, suck me in. And then the baby pulls her inside by the umbilical cord, which is like a level of creative grossness that I think is really impressive.
Yes, sir. That's like, I think this is also one of the more mechanically engaging boss fights in the entire game. Like, there's so many different grapple points on this baby that you have to contend with, and you have to like fight the baby to a stagger point where you then fight the lady. Like, it's cool. It's a good fight. I was into it.
The fact that like the way you really do damage is by like using your demon arm to pull her out of its stomach and then like kick her in the face is just, it's like, I feel like this is one of those kind of, maybe this is where you can see Alex Garland, or maybe this is just a concept artist who had like a really great, gross idea, but like, this almost feels like the kind of idea to me that they were like, we'll build the plot to this point so you get to fight a weird big baby thing.
Bro, this was just Alex Garland workshopping the ending of Men a decade before.
More or
like,
less.
There's a lot of similarities to that.
Wasn't there a whole thing with, like, he had written Men years and years ago and was, like, trying to get it produced or something?
I don't know.
Nah. Anyway, yeah. I was thinking about the movie Men as well.
You ever... Yeah, you haven't, I know, but for the sake of podcasting, gotta ask, you ever see the movie Gozu by Takashi Miike?
Nope.
We'll talk about him a little bit next season. I'll tell you, that's a little hint. A remarkably similar ending in a lot of ways, and I would love to know if Garland was referencing or homaging or ripping off, knowing American audiences probably haven't seen that film. But it's one of the only things I could think while watching the ending of Men, which was surprising to me that thought would have come up. But you know what? Good ending. Good movie. I don't care what people say. I like that movie. Good stuff.
So anyway, then you get her, you orchestrate this trade, between like, hey, Mundus, we'll give you your lady back if you give us Cat back. Cat has been being tortured, I guess, but like one of the weird failings of the game's story here is like, I don't know, like what her being kidnapped like meant, it's like, it didn't seem like she gave up anything, and when she gets back, it doesn't seem to like matter at all. She's just like, she's gone for like one mission and then you get her back.
I think it just facilitates needing to get Dante in a room with Mundus, and that's it.
Yeah. But it does lead us to, if not the most infamous, at least the most shocking single cutscene of this game, right?
Yeah, I guess, like, I guess I didn't really know about this until, like, we talked about last episode. Like, Ben Hansen brought it up to me, and I was like, oh, okay. And seeing it here, like, I guess people hate it because it's disturbing, but on the other hand, as someone who's pro-choice, I kind of like the abortion scene. Because I think it's a good political message.
What do you think choice means? You think it means... So in the scene...
Sorry, I'm pro-choice. You can't argue against it. You're good. Are you pro-life, Jacob? Sorry.
Yeah, I guess that
weird
puts me on
stance to
that
take.
Side. So in the scene, it is your classic kind of showdown where they're making a prisoner exchange. Where Dante has the mistress and some weird, just kind of Men in Black representatives of Mundus have Cat, and they are handing them back to each other. And the moment after they, kind of pass, so like Cat is more on Dante's side, Virgil, who's sitting a little ways away with a sniper rifle in a shipping container, shoots the mistress in the stomach first. So basically, and it lingers long enough for her to look at her hands and very much have the like, wow, you shot a pregnant woman in the stomach moment, which I think is there are many smarter people than me who could, make arguments to the contrary, and I'd probably agree with them. Again, I don't think this plot point is necessarily like bad. I mostly think that it's notorious and kind of cool in just like how nuts it is that it's a mainstream AAA game where one of the guys you're supposedly working with shoots a pregnant woman in the stomach, even though he is killing a demon baby, because we know she's like pregnant with a demon. Also, Virgil turns out to be the bad guy, so like he's whatever.
I don't know. Like, granted, I'm a man, but I didn't find it particularly offensive. I mean, were people upset when Last of Us Part 2 did a similar thing 7 years later? I don't remember that plot point being a sticking point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That was I think maybe part of it is like this game's tone is so all over the place that it's like wacky nightclub level followed by shooting a pregnant woman in the stomach feels like, wait, what are you going for here?
Granted, also in The Last of Us Part 2, that was not an intentional killing of a baby. That was Ellie did not know the woman was pregnant. But let me ask you about Mundus, because this is when we're finally going to get the most FaceTime, well, any FaceTime between Dante and Mundus. It's like, considering the energy drink, the political messaging of this game, or like social commentary of this game, where do you think Mundus fits into it, if at all? Is it just like absolute power corrupts absolutely or whatever? Like, what does he represent in this whole thing other than just like a general distaste of authority?
Yeah, that's, because it's like at the beginning of the game, he has that weird line where he's like, I'm going to control the world through debt. And it's like, oh, okay, so it's kind of like capitalism is bad or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's not actually what he's doing. It's like he just seems like he's a demon and he wants the earth to be controlled by demons.
Yeah.
And it's that's just like a weird, vague directive that he has.
I guess I get what role he serves in the world. My question is like, was Ninja Theory trying to say anything with him? Because it feels like in even just some benign parts of the game, they have something to say. And yet Mundus, I'm like, I don't really know what the message here was, other than like the narrative meaning of guy is bad and authoritarian.
I think, the fact that he kind of looks like a CEO, I think is kind of in the lines of this game's like wake up sheeple messaging, where it's just like, what if the big rich guy was bad? And it's like, yeah, okay. Yeah. I mean, I agree, I guess.
What if I played this game on my PlayStation 3, created by $1 billion company? I get it.
That's right. Games shouldn't actually say that rich people are bad.
I mean, it's a little weird sometimes. I just sometimes think the rich people are bad analogy is used too willy-nilly, where it's like, it's used, the easy counter argument is like, this is a game that cost millions of dollars, published by like you get what I'm saying? It's like, if you don't have anything interesting to say, which I don't think Mundus has anything interesting to say about CEOs or the role of like debt and blah, 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 then I do think it's a little vapid when I'm playing a AAA game and there's this like rich people are bad type of thing, narrative to it.
I don't think that the platform necessarily, prohibits you from saying something radical, but I do agree that it's like without a kind of real institutional critique, which, look, maybe this game is having, saying, like, cable news is poisoning your brain or whatever, but it's like, it just feels like it's kind of like a shortcut to a character, where it's like, we can all agree that, like, the big rich guy is bad, without being like, so, like, what is should we take from this metaphor that you're saying that, like, CEOs are evil, or is it just this one guy? He's just kind of a nothing character. Like, it just kind of doesn't matter. But there is, so Virgil shoots this lady. He then shoots her in the head, which I forgot about. And so it's like, you get kind of the double whammy of like shooting her in the stomach and then head. Some intense scenes. But then there is a cool level after it where like Mundus freaks out, the whole city just starts like popping off, kind of going into limbo, and for some reason Virgil and Kat are driving away in a car that is like slowing down and stopping in time right before it would hit something bad, and then you can like grapple to it and punch it away, and it's like, who knows why that happens, but I think it's a really fun level conceit.
Absolutely. The hows and whys don't matter, because it's fun to be Dante fucking swinging around like Spider-Man through this world collapsing in on itself. It's rad.
Yeah, I think the limbo and the level design in this part of the game are generally really cool, because the next part then is almost this weird, again, it seems like an idea they had that they just put in this one level that's not really reflected throughout the rest of the game. But you do almost like an Ocean's 11 style heist where you are like breaking into the big Mundus headquarters building, and you're seeing like the walls are turning into like chalk outlines as you're hearing Kat describe like what you're going to do breaking in totally the heist movie thing of saying like, and then you'll impersonate the guard, and then we see like the main actor impersonating the guard or whatever.
The cool part of this though is like the level begins with Kat explaining the plan, but then her VO carries over to the actual plan. Mm-hmm. And her chalkboard drawing she was doing before it happened starts showing up in the level. So there'll be like an arrow pointing the direction you need to go. Like, it looks really fucking cool.
Yeah, it feels like they've been doing this whole just like words appearing in the environment thing the whole game where it's like kill Dante, and this feels like maybe at one point they wanted it to be that idea to be expanded, where it's like it's mostly just the words, and then we get this one really cool level with like chalk appearing on the actual walls and stuff. It's cool. I like if they did another game or even another like non-DMC game, I would love to see just kind of this idea expanded on, because it's just like fun to play through.
Absolutely. Kyle Hilliard would have plenty of material for his ongoing Twitter thread about big text and games. Can
I say something that I really appreciated about this game that I just kind of like realized in retrospect, playing it again, is we've talked about how the story is generally bad and like the dialogue isn't good, but this was made before or kind of just at the beginning of era of like characters that never shut the fuck up during gameplay. And like, I was really appreciative that when you were doing these like platforming sections as Dante, he doesn't have like a little quip to say with every jump. Like he actually is silent for most of it, and he says like huh, when he launches a guy, but it's not like, oh, glad I didn't look down for that one, when he's like jumping from one part of limbo to another.
I didn't even think about that, but yeah, that's a good point. Shouts out to this game shutting the hell up.
I think it's just like that idea. I bet if they made this game now,
sure,
it would, and I bet in Hellblade 2 or in whatever else Ninja Theory is currently working on, the character is going to talk the entire time, because that just seems like what we're doing now. But
well, in Hellblade 2, not only is Senua going to talk the whole time,
all of the voices are going to be talking the whole time.
Yeah, 13 other people are going to be talking the whole time. Truly fascinated to go back and see if that's still cool or annoying, because I don't remember.
Anyway, let's see. There's a part where they go into the finance wing and they're like, "Oh, these people are barely human," which is like, okay, another kind of shot at capitalism. Yeah. I don't know. There's a little elevator gag that I like, where he gets on the elevator and he's going to like the 666th floor, and then it keeps like flashing to just different weird numbers.
Yeah, that's fine. I also like the part where Kat's VO is like, "This next part is going to be tough, Dante." And then you get in the elevator to go up, and it's just like a really long sequence in the elevator, and Dante's like, "God, this is tough." It's like, that's funny. That's very funny.
We got elevator jokes, but they're fine.
That's some elevated humor. Nebula.com.tv/somethingrottenpodcast. You can start paying for this shit. Jacob, there's something I noticed about you.
Oh, yeah?
You're a very hairy guy. Probably shave pretty frequently, and yet you're not bankrupting yourself on disposable razor cartridges. What gives?
Blake, you are so right. If I shaved with one of those new multi-blade things, or even worse, had one of those subscription services, I'd take probably most of my income keeping my beard in check. But, in fact, I shave with a sponsor of this episode, Henson Razors, and they are genuinely very cool. See, Henson sells a classic safety razor that uses standard blades. Standard razor blades, unlike cartridges, are super cheap and not tied to any proprietary system. Even better, though, is that Henson's razor is designed to be super usable for anyone, no experience required. I had no cuts and smooth cheeks the very first time I shaved with it. It's a classic kind of razor, but engineered with super modern tech. It's the pinnacle of razor evolution, Blake. HensonShaving.com, promo code ROTTEN.
Can I tell you something about me, Jacob? I have not used a razor since I was a teenager.
Is that true?
I use an electric razor. I'm just really good at using those. Yeah, that's all I use.
Blake, here's the thing. I actually use this all of the time. This is a sponsor that I truly believe in. My beard, it looks full, but it just grows this fast. The thing is, you can get a razor and a free pack of 100 blades, which would last, like, years. You can do that all by going to HensonShaving.com and using the promo code ROTTEN.
Hey, do you know a better version of this podcast is available on Nebula? It's the same show, but with no ads, and you get to hear every episode a week before everyone else. And there's a full-length bonus episode included with every season. That means that if you're listening to this, there's at least one more episode of Something Rotten available to you right now, as soon as you sign up for Nebula. We'll even give you a custom RSS feed. You can continue listening in the podcast app of your choice. Apple, Spotify, whatever the hell you want. It's easy to set up, and you get all your bonus and early content delivered right to you. So when you sign up using the link in the description, you're getting all that extra stuff I mentioned, but you're also directly supporting more episodes of this show. Get more Something Rotten, as well as everything else on Nebula, by going to nebula.tv/somethingrotten.
The next couple levels do not make a lot of sense in sequence to me, and sure. I feel like it's why, it's like Devil May Cry games always have levels. They're not like one continuous playthrough, and I feel like you can kind of get away with this more, because the next level, you're just like in hell, and there's just like fire shooting up from like below platforms, and then the level after that, you're like in a cave, and I'm like, wait, we're still in the building? And then in the last level, it's like, yeah, you're still in that building.
Yeah, honestly, the last several levels did very little for me.
These were pretty stinky.
Yeah, especially like the fire coming up across that whole like cavey looking level. It's really annoying because the game, I already just want the game to be faster, and now you're making me stand still like every 5 seconds. I'm just like, come the fuck on.
Yeah, it's like there's no way to do it quickly. You just have to stand there and wait for the fire. So it's like, it's whatever. Joe Juba actually mentioned this in the Game Informer review, where he was like, my last level is to like start 4 generators? Like, Virgil, what are you doing?
Yeah, this is all pretty rough. I mean, you want to just jump right to the Mundus fight?
No, I don't, because we have to talk about the dialogue exchange at the beginning of that generator level, where Dante says, I have a bigger dick.
No, Virgil says it.
Oh, I wasn't sure who said it.
Virgil says, Dante's like, I'm smarter, and then Virgil's like, I'm something more, and then Dante's like, huh, and then at the end Virgil goes, and I have a bigger dick. And I was like, well, whip them out, boys, let's see.
They should have whipped it out.
They should have. I mean, honestly, I'm a little shocked this game didn't have a penis somewhere in it.
I was going to say, even just like a demon that had like a big schlong. Again, are Something Rotten, continuing games with dicks in them.
Should we do a games with dicks season?
Yeah, for sure.
God, we'd have to play like Grand Theft Auto 4.
Yeah, I mean, we answered this question in the Q&A. I think it's just the Ballad of Gay Tony, so maybe we could just play that.
Well, no, we'd also have to play Custer's Revenge.
Nope. And Dante's Inferno. Anyway, so then let's just skip to the boss fight. So you fight Mundus, you get him mad, you talk about how you killed his baby, and he turns into a big rock monster.
And it's not fun.
No. Do you know the thing that happens at the end of, not the Matrix game that everyone talks about, where the end is just the Wachowskis as stick figures sitting on a couch and talking to you, but there's a different moment that I think is in a different Matrix game where they're like, the end of this movie you can't really play, so here, do this instead, and there are a million Smiths that just turn into like one big Smith mech. And it looks exactly like this. It's just very funny that it's like, a bunch of shit flies together and turns into like a city-destroying thing.
Yeah, fights that are on this scale always look so cool, and except for those God of War games, they're rarely ever that good, because a lot of them just boil down to, guy's gonna smash his arm down, you're gonna hit it for a while.
Yeah.
And it's never very fun. And that's what this one ultimately comes down to, is like avoiding big ol' arms and then swiping at his thumb for 20 minutes until he's dead.
It's very, it's like what this game does well here is what it does generally well, which is like the platforming I think is fun.
Sure.
Zooming from one place to another is fun, and so you're kind of jumping out of the way stuff, but you're just smacking this guy's thumb until you can pull out his eyeball, and Virgil's in some like goop inside fighting the main guy, and it's all just like totally kind of weightless and stakesless. And at the end of this, something that they never really... Well, okay, so here's something that happens. Virgil destroys the Hellgate, which I assumed was going to kill all the demons. But what it actually does is just, like, removes the glamour. So everyone starts seeing the demons, and then you get a bunch of shots of social media where people are saying shit like #demons have awoken.
Yeah, it's very strange.
I guess it's just it's like anonymous. It's another wake up sheeple.
I'm so glad we're beyond the point where Anonymous has much cultural cachet. Not because, like, Anonymous, like, maybe they did. I guess they weren't necessarily an actual organization, but, like, a loose idea of an organization. But, like...
Yeah, it's like they did some good stuff, but it was always so, like, really? No,
it's not even what I'm saying.
Okay.
I just think the impact they had on pop culture was so fucking annoying that I'm glad it's gone.
Yeah, well, it's the V for Vendetta to Anonymous to, like, weird guy on Reddit pipeline.
And Occupy Wall Street kind of also fit into here, where you would see that pop up in some weird ways in, like, games or pop culture, and it was all very annoying in a way that I feel like detracted from anything good any of those movements might have done within media.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the Occupy movement was basically killed, by being like, we gotta stop any sort of lower class uprising from happening. Whereas Anonymous was just like, did good stuff, we're cringe. Sorry, y'all.
That's Something Rotten, though. Did good stuff. We also a little cringe.
For sure. At the end of this, the entire city is destroyed. Just seemingly tens of millions of people dead. Not really reflected on. Yes.
Can I have a bad faith argument here about storytelling?
Yeah.
Okay, so I understand that Mundus has brainwashed everyone with his evil soda and debt, but also people are kind of chilling, there's no war. Mundus is it's implied Mundus has caused world peace, or at least for this city, things are pretty chill. Yeah, he's they were all killing each other before I showed up, now they're chill. And Dante never disputes the fact. He's yeah, but you're bad and you're a ruler, and that's all fair, I understand that. Also, the solution is to get rid of the ostensible peace under authoritarianism, I will acknowledge. And they kill tens of millions of people. That's so what I'm saying,
part.
I am just saying, I understand people were brainwashed, drinking evil soda and having to listen to Rush Limbaugh, but were they better off?
You are making the what's his name argument from The Matrix, where he's like, I know the steak is fake, but it tastes good. And it's you know what? He's right. Sometimes I do just want the steak.
It's just I understand that's a bad faith argument in a lot of ways. On the other hand, the game never says Mundus killed tens of millions of people. The game says Mundus killed 2 people, and Dante's mad
he's killing them with his soda, Blake. He's killing them with, insidious advertising.
But he also, the game does imply he brought peace to the world.
Yeah, well, so it kind of makes... So Dante's whole thing is, people have a right to freedom, which is also kind of the Matrix argument. It's
fair.
people have a right to freedom. But what we find out at the end, and it kind of makes more sense why Virgil would have wanted to kill tens of millions of people, is Virgil's nah, we're the ones who are supposed to rule, which we knew was going to happen the whole game, because if you know anything about Dante and Virgil, you know that they fight each other. And of course, at the end, they have to fight each other.
And we get the only actual Devil May Cry boss fight in this entire game.
Yeah. And I think it's a pretty good boss fight. I do too.
I don't I don't like when he turns into the two versions of himself.
That part is weird because you have to use Devil Trigger, but it's like there's never been a place in the game before where you could like only do damage during Devil Trigger, and whatever. I like, I think that they give him a lot of cool moves. They're really hard to fight against, except if you know like when to parry. There's also, I was curious how you did with the kind of like the hardest regular enemies, which are those teleporting dudes with swords.
Oh, instantly turned on Devil Trigger and just fucking crushed them.
Okay.
I could not, I should have Googled it, but I just couldn't figure out how to fucking, the right way to get these guys. So I basically would save my Devil Trigger for their encounters, because otherwise Devil Trigger isn't very useful or fun to play with.
I had a very, sleeper agent moment when those guys came in where I remembered my training from playing this game 5 years ago or whatever, where I was like, wait, I know Kung Fu, I know how to do this. But it is this weird thing where they introduce characters that really have to be fought in very specific ways. And so my thing that I would do is they teleport, you parry them when they come back out, hit them twice, launch them, hit them twice in the air, use your fist to smack them back down, and that would often do enough. But it's another kind of fault of this game's combat system is it does reward, there are no enemies in Devil May Cry where you have to do exactly these 6 moves against them in the rest of the series, and it does really feel like there are those kind of things here.
Yeah, I don't feel bad for not figuring that out.
No, not at all.
The game also, for the majority of its time, doesn't really push you to have to do anything that complex for an enemy. I mean, you have the bigger enemies, which have specific ways you should and need to fight them, but they're not even on that level of here's the precise inputs you need to effectively do this. So yeah, I don't feel bad about not figuring it out.
I think basically what happened towards the end of this, and why I think people are right to criticize the combat and whatever, is you essentially just hit a ceiling, where it's and there is always, what's tough is it feels like there's just always a right thing to do in a way that kind of discourages creativity, where every combat scenario that started, I would use my glaives to pull everyone towards me, and then I would do some sort of launcher, and I'd hit people in the air, and then I'd slam back down with the fists, and then I'd do a couple hammer strikes, and it's that their axe, and it's that's everything. It's almost every situation in the game can be solved through that, and you'll get a triple S rank for doing it, and it just it just the limitless possibility of Devil May Cry 4 or 5 is not here in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I still think I really like this game. I think I had a fonder memory of it before replaying it. Mm-hmm. But I by no means did not. It's not a Call of Duty 4 situation where I went from loving a game to hating it.
No, I still think it's pretty great.
Yeah, I went from really liking this game to still liking it. But also I could not shake the feeling playing it that it's I kind of just want to play Bayonetta or DMC 5 or even Nier Automata, any other stylish action game.
I think that they really did achieve their goal of creating a version of this genre of game that you can pick up and feel great at without being a pro in this genre. And I also think it's not like the Bayonetta thing where it's just doing auto combos. It's you do have to think about stuff, but it's just it's on an easier level. And ultimately, not every game needs to be a game that you can play to master for 1,000 hours. So
absolutely,
all of my nitty combat criticisms withstanding, I think it's totally fine, and I don't think that this game should get dinged too much for not being a fucking academic essay in character action, which DMC 5 is.
Do you wish there was a sequel to this game?
I kind of want. I like that Ninja Theory made Hellblade, but I do wish there was a world where they also made kind of big AAA adventure games, because I think this plus Enslaved would be like a really cool combo if they kind of I think they were a little limited by the world of Devil May Cry, even as much as they changed it. But like, I think Enslaved is a cool idea. I think Heavenly Sword is a cool idea. If they kept doing stuff like that with where they got the combat to in this game, that seems awesome to me.
Yeah, I guess specifically with DMC, I am kind of glad it didn't get more games. I don't know. Maybe we would have lived in a universe where there was a parallel DMC series,
right.
You know? But like,
I could only dream.
I guess I'm just like, I hate to be like thing in Japan, and the thing in Japan is cooler, but I think this just like lacks the fun and kind of like coolness of the Capcom DMC games.
Yep.
That like as I said on the show plenty of times, I'm just like super not in this game's story at all, you know, in a way that like, even though I never know what's happening in a Devil May Cry game, they're just fun to look at. I don't think this game's all that fun to look at in its story moments. I also think the other DMC games are like way better. They just have a charm that only like Capcom can bring, or like that ilk, you know, the Platinum or Clover type.
Yeah,
thing. And on the other hand, even though like when I played Hellblade, I didn't super care for the game. I'm just glad it exists because it's so fucking weird in a way that I feel like only Ninja Theory can do, because they do make fucking weird games.
Yeah.
And like big swings that like I'm kind of glad their hand was forced to do something different after this and go for Hellblade.
Yeah, did we play the like sales game last week for this?
The sales game.
I just me asking you how many.
No.
Okay, so
no.
So where do you think in the kind of like saga of the series, how do you think this did?
Well, Devil May Cry 3 I think is the best selling one, right?
Devil May Cry 3 is the worst selling one.
That's what I meant.
Isn't that crazy though? Like the one that everyone's this is where they got it, is the worst selling in the franchise?
I thought Devil May Cry 4 was the worst selling. Okay. This is not the best selling one. Is DMC 5 the best selling one?
DMC 5 is the best selling.
Makes sense.
DMC 4 actually, so here's the catch, is that basically all of these games have like multiple editions, and so I've added the editions together.
Sure.
But DMC 5 in total has sold like 6.5 million copies, which for a game that niche, pretty great. DMC 4 total sold 5.2. DMC 4 was viewed as disappointing sales-wise, which is why they pivoted to this. But this only sold in its original release 2.8 million, and then another 1.2 million of the definitive edition. So 4 total, which is not terrible. And it's kind of surprising how many the definitive edition it sold. But, like, they were trying to get something that was a bigger hit than DMC4, and they did not do it.
Going to Capcom's investor relations site, a very cool site I recommend everyone check out, because it has an absurd amount of sales data on it.
Yeah, we were talking about this in our Resident Evil episode.
Yeah, Devil May Cry 5 is Capcom's 10th best-selling game of all time.
Yeah, it's really... I mean, I think that probably... the like next generation thing was probably big for it, because that was like an early PS5, Xbox, whatever.
It also like, I don't know how much of this is like me saying something exists that doesn't exist in terms of sales numbers, but like the Capcom Renaissance or whatever. The Capcom Renaissance thing. I think there maybe is a sales driver there where people are like, "Fuck, man, I played Resident Evil 2 remake and Resident Evil 7. Oh, this company also has this Devil May Cry. Yeah, exactly. Oh, what is the same logo is on this Devil May Cry game? Like, does that bring in however many millions just from like this like supposed like renaissance we keep talking about, which I think is like from a quality degree is a thing that is happening. I don't know if that's like always indicative of sales or just like the games are you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's hard to know how much the average gamer is aware of like publishers or developers. And I also think DMC5 was helped by just being like, wow, this is one of the best looking games I have ever seen. Like, I want to have that on my PlayStation. In terms of Metacritic scores, what do you think is the best reviewing one?
Oh, I mean, man, this game reviewed way better than I expected. But I think Devil May Cry. I want to say Devil May Cry 5 because that game was such a fucking... It was?
It is, but it is a really tight spread. So DMC 5 is at an 88. DMC 3, 87. DMC Devil May Cry, the one we were just talking about, 85, and DMC 4, 84. So it's like, they are just hitting exactly the same place on the target every time.
What about Devil May Cry 2?
68.
There we go.
But Devil May Cry 2, I think, sold really well.
Sure. One thing Devil May Cry 2, here's the thing gamers might not like to hear. Poor quality of a game means little when the game sells good. So I would assume the game was successful enough to warrant Devil May Cry 3, no matter how bad it might have been. One last thing I would like to bring up here at the end. Mm-hmm. When we think about Dante from DMC Devil May Cry and
featuring
Nero,
Dante from the Devil May Cry series.
Right. When we think about their character designs, DMC Devil May Cry Dante, Nero from Devil May Cry 5.
And 4.
At what point are we No, just 5. Just 5.
Oh, because of his design. Yeah.
At what point are we going to acknowledge and need to get comment from Capcom about the fact they're ripping off Mike Mahardy's actual look for these characters? They look exactly like him. It's every time I see it, I'm just playing as Mike Mahardy right now. For those who don't know, Mike Mahardy works at Polygon as the reviews editor, was a GameSpot for a long time, host of Firescape podcast.
That's very funny.
Just uncannily look like, more so Nero from DMC 5, but like Dante in this game also kind of looks like him. It fucks me up every time.
I think what you're just saying is Mike Mahardy's a Chad and looks like a Chad, right?
Look, probably. I won't say anything weird on a hot mic, but yeah, I think he might just be a little bit of a Chad. I don't know if he listens to this, if he's going to hear that.
The one I'll take us out by saying, isn't it funny how quickly they cut to the real life footage of the Ninja Theory office at the end of it's like literally the end of this game is Dante does not kill Virgil because Kat asks him not to. They like go in their separate ways, zoom in on Dante's eye, music swells, and then just immediate cut to credits while there's like a handy cam in the middle of the Ninja Theory office, just like filming people's cubicles.
And dude, I wanted to watch it so bad, but the song was so dog shit that I had to skip them. Like, I wanted to watch the footage because it seemed fun, and the song was so terrible that I was like, I can't fucking do this.
They show very little footage. They basically just scroll through a bunch of concept art. It's disappointing. But anyway, the game does not stick the landing in terms of punching to credits in a meaningful way. But next week, we're going to be talking about a game that I think people would generally consider had a much more ambitious story than Devil May Cry, and probably did it better, because we're going to the world of Senua and her sacrifice. We're playing Hellblade. I'm going to play it in VR. Blake's going to play it in normal person vision. I'm excited to talk about that game.
On PlayStation 5, as God intended, my little butt on my couch next to my dog. No standing and gaming like a pervert. Like, Jacob, you weird pervert.
You can sit and play VR.
No, you can't, because you got to swing around and shit.
Oh, it's just a controller game.
Okay.
And, hey, for Blake Hester, my name is Jacob Geller. Wake up, sheeple.
God damn it. Bye.